Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Welcome to the show. It's Friday, TGIF. Definitely. All right, so we got a good show for you guys today. We've got some news. We got Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar. What happened to Klobentum? Well, we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Donald Trump and his re-election chances. Maybe not so good after all. Fascinating. So now this is coming from Republican, GOP strategists. They're like, uh-oh, we got some problems. As one person in the chat put it, let's see. Favorite headline of the week, Trump team thinks Biden needs to campaign more. Yeah, I know. I guess that whole we're going to hide Biden out in a bunker thing might actually be effective, which is depressing, incredibly depressing. Dear God, we could have done so much better. But you know what? Maybe I should save that for the rest of the show. All right. Then we're going to have Donald Trump on masks. Why does he think people are wearing masks? Because a lot of people are. And so, you know, he's got his own thoughts on that. So I'm going to talk about that. And then we've got rocket fuel in your water. Nice. First, we do have some breaking news. And it's sort of good. Also, not quite as good as we had hoped. So now, let me get to that. Okay. So now, one of the officers that was involved in the shooting death of Breonna Taylor has been fired from his job. This is Officer Brett Hankinson. He's one of the 3 officers that broke into Breonna Taylor's apartment, shot her 8 times, shot up the place 20 times, and then arrested her boyfriend for defending himself against these officers that literally broke into her apartment. So Brett Hankinson has been fired. Now, Hankinson is accused by the department's interim chief, Robert Schrader, of blindly firing 10 rounds into Taylor's apartment, creating a substantial danger of death and serious injury. Yes, and we saw that. 8 shots. I don't know if it were 8 of his or how many actually were, ended up in Breonna Taylor. But still, yeah, no kidding. You can't just blind fire into somebody's apartment. It's crazy. It's crazy. He writes, I find your conduct a shock to the conscience. This is a letter to Hankinson. I am alarmed and stunned you use deadly force in this fashion. The result of your action seriously impedes the department's goal of providing the citizens of our city with the most professional law enforcement agency possible. I cannot tolerate this type of conduct by any member of the Louisville Metro Police Department. Your conduct demands your termination. So, wait, why would you be stunned that police would use deadly force in this fashion? They do it all the time. I'm just saying. I mean, do you guys remember when the LAPD was chasing Chris Dorner? And they literally opened fire into a truck carrying people that were not Christopher Dorner. And they just, hundreds of bullets. Now, these, I believe it were 2 women that were in that car. And they luckily survived. They did not get hit. And so police blind firing into things, yeah, that they do that. And maybe, they shouldn't. All right. So, yes, her autopsy claimed that she didn't have any injuries. I mean, no, it was a police report. That's what you're referring to. The police report said, "Oh, no injuries," right? And no, they didn't use deadly force, and they didn't even knock down the door. That's not true at all. And so there were numerous problems with this. They shouldn't even have been there. They shouldn't even went to Brianna's apartment. Why did they do so when they already had the person that they were looking for in custody? And this was all on ridiculous drug charges, which, by the way, they searched the apartment. They found nothing. No drugs. So him being fired. And so let me go to that, right? So he gets fired. He gets terminated, right? But where are the arrests? That man should not be walking free right now. That man should be in prison. All 3 of them should be in jail right now, awaiting charges. But yet they're walking free. And this guy, maybe if they don't charge him and they let him go, what's to stop him from going and getting another job as a police officer? I mean, what? This is ridiculous. Yes, it's a start that he was fired, that he's no longer a cop in Louisville, but he needs to be arrested. All of them need to be arrested. We need to have justice. Again, Breonna Taylor, literally murdered by the police. No. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Ridiculous. To think that that's going to stop the protests, it's not. It's not. Nothing but actual justice is going to stop the protests. And so, no justice, no peace. All right. That's it. That's the breaking news, right? All right. So before I get into the rest of the stories, I want to ask you guys to please like and share the stream. Very helpful. Do it. No, they let the boyfriend go, Jim. Jim Wilson in the chat asks are they still holding the boyfriend? No. All the charges were dropped against him. He's a legal gun owner, and he was defending himself. He shot one of the officers in the leg in self-defense. But again, the charges against him, shooting at a police officer, were dropped. And so, yeah, he's got nothing against him right now. And that's the correct way to go. But again, what we need to do is we need to arrest and charge these officers and let them have their day in court for her death. They are responsible. All right. So let's go to the first story here. Let's go to a little bit of electoral politics. We're changing the subject here. Okay. Republican strategists are apparently in a panic over the very real possibility that Donald Trump could lose his re-election bid. So now there are various different sources to this story, including GOP, basically strategists that have been working on the Senate campaigns and people in Republican circles. And so they're very, very concerned, right? Because according to some polls, Donald Trump is trailing Vice President Joe Biden by a lot, 10 points nationally. And according to their own internal state polls, not much better. So now, of course, there's always the caveat of polls could be, a little bit off or a little bit wrong. Even some of these GOP pollsters says, well, the Biden winning by 14 points in Michigan, well, that's a little bit off. It's a little high, but they still had Biden ahead of him significantly in Michigan and in other places where Donald Trump won back in 2016. And so they are freaking out about this. In fact, more than a half dozen GOP strategists working on Senate and House races told Vice News that they've seen Trump's numbers plunge in states and districts across the country. And again, that has him panicked. So now, a lot of the factors, of course, are because of the terrible coronavirus response, his reaction to Black Lives Matter protests, and of course, the disastrous economy. You've got all of those. You've got this perfect storm of terrible things and Donald Trump's inability to actually lead. And not only that, but also to give any sort of wins to his base. In fact, he just recently lost on DACA. So thankfully he lost because now he's not going to be able to, at this point, deport 700,000 people that are in the DACA program. He's also only built a wall around the White House and hid out in a bunker. So he's got really no big legislative wins here unless you count the tax cuts for the rich, which, yeah, let's go brag about how we cut corporate taxes. That'll play well with the Republican audience. That'll play well with any audience. So now, according to one GOP strategist, he says, quote, "The environment really sucks for us right now. We've got a worldwide pandemic. The economy is slipping, and now we have a race war tacked on. If the election were held today, we'd be talking about a wipeout. It couldn't possibly be that bad, right? Well, they said we'd be in landslide territory. Jesus. Well then. Now, lucky for them, and I say lucky for them, the election is still months away. So understand that anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. The field could change. There could be, I guess, a disaster when it comes to Biden, or the economy could get better, and we certainly would like for the economy to get better. Certainly don't want it to get worse. But then again, I don't see any reason that it could get better at this point. As again, Republicans are awful stewards of the economy, and so. But not only that, another caveat here: never underestimate the Democrats' ability to take defeat from the jaws of victory. So they're really good at that. But nonetheless, at this moment in time, it's a disaster and they are in a panic. So now let's look at that a little bit closer, right? So now apparently the president's doing very badly in some of the states and districts that he had won in 2016. For example, in Michigan, as I mentioned, which Trump won in 2016, you have Biden's lead edging into double-digit territory. And so it could be, 9 to 10 points instead of 14. So, something to watch out for, right? Not only that, but you also have Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. In those states, Biden holds a pretty good lead. You also have Arizona, in which Biden polls better than Trump outside of the margin of error. And so there's that, right? Now, Biden's also slightly ahead in Florida and North Carolina, two states that Donald Trump won last time. And so understand that if this holds, and again, old caveats included, right? Right now, perfect storm. Okay. How long that storm lasts, we don't know. So understand that. But nonetheless, Republican strategists said that Georgia, Iowa, Ohio, and even Texas are now within the margin of error in recent surveys. Trump won Georgia by 5 percentage points, Ohio by 8, and Iowa and Texas by 9 in 2016. So a lot of the leads that he had in a lot of these places are disappearing. He is losing support left and right. And so that's bad for him. Look, I have the opinion, and a lot of you, I think, might disagree with me, but I think all things considered, if everything stays the same, right? If we have similar conditions by the time November rolls around, I think Biden's going to walk into this. And the reason I say that is not because, Biden's such a great candidate. No, you guys know me. You know Biden's a terrible candidate. He's a garbage candidate. But the thing is, he's a little less garbage than Donald Trump. And so long as the Democrats continue to hide Biden in his bunker so that he can't come out and say stupid things, Donald Trump is going to continue to say and do stupid / harmful things. And so that's going to make this election a referendum on Donald Trump. And so it's different than 2016, right? Now, before the pandemic, before the economic downturn, before all that stuff, I was still saying that, look, if you nominate Joe Biden and a candidate that has, that offers no change, then you're going to get Donald Trump, right? Because there's just not going to be enough enthusiasm. People aren't going to be really excited to go out into the polls. I think that I'm probably wrong about this now, right? And so the way that I see it now is it's no longer an election of status quo versus radical change, right? I think the dynamic has shifted away from populism in a way, right? And the reason I say that is because here you had in the Democratic primary, right? Bernie Sanders running in the populist position. He's got the most popular policies. People like his policy, right? But yet in states where Biden clearly had the majority when he, in the voting when he won, people still said, well, we would prefer a Medicare for all. We would prefer a single payer system, a living wage, all the policies that Bernie Sanders was, in favor of, is in favor of. And so why would that be? Well, it's because people are less concerned about those populist policies, even though they're in favor of them. And they decided to go with what they considered the candidate that they thought would take out Donald Trump. So now I disagree with that, right? I think the TV is telling people, or was telling people, that Biden was the best choice when he obviously wasn't, and that Bernie would lose to Trump. No, Bernie would have crushed Donald Trump. I think anybody would crush Donald Trump at this point. Again, Trump is not in a strong position here. All he knows how to do is attack, but really he's got to sit there and defend, right? And so the situation is, again, it has changed. He's not running against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is still more unpopular than Donald Trump. Nobody cares. Nobody likes Hillary Clinton. But the situation for Biden is a little bit different. There are more people that have a favorable view of Joe Biden. Again, the more you know about Joe Biden, the less I think that you would like them, because, I mean, look, you guys know, you've watched this show, right? Serial liar, right? Alleged sexual assault, Tara Reid, all this stuff, right? And so I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, right? And I'm not saying that he's a good candidate. What I'm saying is that people, likely because they're not exposed to all the stuff that Biden has actually done for who he is, and they just remember him for the positive association to President Obama, and think, well, this guy's way better than Donald Trump. Well, policy-wise, on some things, sure, but again, they're both not great candidates. And so, despite that, I'm going to say something controversial. Biden's still better than Trump, objectively. And so, what sucks is that, again, we could have, this was a missed opportunity, right? This was a big missed opportunity because, again, Trump is so incredibly beatable that the Democrats' argument for getting Biden in there as the nominee was, well, we got to have somebody that could beat Trump, right? Electability. Well, Bernie Sanders always had more electability than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I'm sorry. Definitely more than Joe Biden. He would have beaten Donald Trump in 2016. And now that was when Trump was at his strongest. Now Trump is basically at his weakest point, I think, where a ham sandwich could beat him. And so unfortunately, we missed out. Bernie Sanders got screwed over once again. You know, it was a Monday night, or Bloody Sunday, or no, I think it was Bloody Monday, where all of these establishment candidates lined up behind Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden didn't have a ground game, and he still doesn't, and he might not even need it, and that's the sucky thing, man. That's the worst part about this, is that Joe Biden's not even going to have to work for it. He's got all of the advantages at this moment of time, and it is incredibly depressing. Now, again, some of those things that are in favor of Joe Biden are, opposed to what Hillary Clinton ran on. She had incredible negatives going into this, right? He is not that unpopular, and he's got a more favorable election chance. Now, if you would ask me, of course, before coronavirus and all that, I thought Biden would have had a much, much more difficult race, that Donald Trump certainly could have won the Electoral College again. And that certainly still is a possibility, but I think it's a much lower possibility. And so, because of everything going on, I think Biden has a better chance, especially if they do keep him in a bunker. Which, again, super sad. Now, there's more. It turns out these same Republicans are worried that they're also going to have a wipeout at the congressional level. Well, so now this is where you actually have some good news, right? This is where it's something positive, because one GOP strategist involved in multiple congressional races said that during a recent all-staff conference call to touch base with their own races filled them with a sense of growing alarm. Quote, "I had a call this week with my entire team," said the source. "It became a 15-minute conversation. Literally every single race we're involved in, we're seeing Trump's numbers dip, and in most concerning is the slip with seniors. If he loses the senior vote, that's it. He's got nothing." That source said if the election were held today, it would be devastating for the GOP. We would not just lose the White House, but the Senate, and likely some House seats as well, even though most of the map being fought over this time is actually favorable to Republicans. These are seats that Democrats flipped in 2018 that were Republican seats. And they might even still not be able to get those back. They also warned of a mirror image result of the 1988 presidential election, when President George H.W. Bush won 40 states in what they called an electoral romp. Wow. So, again, this is based on Republican sources. That said, I do have to note this. They could be gaslighting and making sure that we're not, that we're getting a little bit full of hubris, right? Maybe a repeat of 2016. Oh, don't worry, we got this. Even Republicans are saying, I don't know. It could be, or they could be legitimately crapping their pants and going, what are you doing, Donald Trump? We're going to lose. We're going to lose. So now what's encouraging about this is you've got a bunch of House and Senate races, congressional races that are right now being decided, like who's going to run in those congressional races in primaries. For example, you've got great candidates like Jamal Bowman. Jamal Bowman is going after Elliot Engel. Jamal Bowman is beating Elliot Engel. You have Charles Booker versus Amy McGrath in Kentucky for the right to take on Mitch McConnell. I think Charles Booker has a much better chance of defeating Mitch McConnell than somebody like Amy McGrath, who is basically Allison Lonergan Grimes 2.0. If you don't know who that is, well, there's a reason, because she lost so badly. You also have Paula Jean Swearengin. She won her primary already. You have so many other great progressive candidates that are running, that if this situation holds, and people are so sick of Republicans right now that they turn out for Biden and then they go progressive down ticket, well, then there you go. That's going to be good. Those are significant wins for progressives and a way to remake Congress. You might not have the White House, might not have a progressive in the White House, but you'll have a progressive Congress. And that just means if Biden is gone and we get a progressive replacement, then we actually have people in Congress that could pass a Medicare for all system. And so that's good. I like that. All right. So now there's more. Now Republicans see this, right? And they see this train coming at them, right? And so they have this warning, quote, Trump has to get his shit together and his campaign has to get their shit together, or it's going to be really problematic. It would be catastrophic. Get your shit together. Get it together. Bring it to the shit store. Do something. Just get it together. That's what they're saying. That's awesome. Now, Republicans say that Trump is getting blown out with independent voters and continues to drop with women, specifically white women without college degrees. So they're moving away from him as well. Some have also seen an erosion with senior citizens as well as voters in Gen X. Trump's also starting to lose support from his base. Two separate sources said recent private polls found Trump's approval rating slipping into the low 80s with the Republicans. Now, that might not seem significant, but remember, Donald Trump normally enjoyed the high 90s with the Republicans. If it's slipping down to the 80s, not good. That doesn't mean they're going to turn around and vote Democrat. No, what they're going to do is they're not going to be excited to go out and vote. So that's interesting. So obviously, big caveats, right? That's all the information, but here's some caveats. Now, again, we've got 4 or 5 months, right? A lot can change. We could have a vaccine. We could have an economic recovery. Both of those things would be good things, by the way, but electorally also advantageous for Donald Trump. And so we'll be fair about that. You could also have Republicans keep hold of the Senate if moderate Democrats decide that they are going to block progressives by supporting Republicans in congressional races. You don't think that would happen? That's exactly what Joe Biden had done. Joe Biden supported Fred Upton, who was a Republican, against a progressive challenger. So that certainly can happen. That is one way where the Democrats can ensure that they don't get a majority, that they lose by blocking progressives. So in that case, it would once again prove that Democrats would rather have Republicans in office than progressives. And so that is something to worry about. You could also see, of course, Donald Trump losing the popular vote again, but getting enough of a win in certain places to still win the Electoral College. That could definitely happen. And not only that, but look, success isn't guaranteed. You also have voter suppression, for example, which is really, really huge. That is a gigantic thing. You have voting irregularities. You have people being purged in Republican states from the voter rolls. You have all that stuff to be concerned with. And even, with all of that, you also have Republicans defending some pretty hard seats, right? For them for the Democrats to flip. So it's going to take a lot, like a Democrat winning in Montana or Iowa. And so that's another thing, right? And again, never underestimate the ability of Democrats to pull defeat from the jaws of victory. That's it. All that. It does look bad for Trump right now. One GOP strategist who expects less worry than many others originally had called and talked to Vice, and they called them immediately after seeing news of former National Security Advisor John Bolton's accusations towards Donald Trump. And so here's how that call began. It started with this. Holy shit. That's a quote. And then says, are we at the bottom? Or has the bottom not even dropped out yet? Wondered another strategist. I don't know what gets us out of this. People are probably just fucking sick of it. And by it, meaning the daily circus that is the Trump administration. Look, I'm not saying that Biden's definitely going to win, right? I'm just saying, if this stays the same, if we still have this situation, very likely Joe Biden might walk into the White House. And that would be the end of Donald Trump. I'm just saying that's possible. And though we shouldn't obviously let down our guard or shouldn't take anything for granted, of course. But I mean, it might be the end of Donald Trump's reign. And that, of course, is a good thing. We'll see in November. All right. Bit of a long segment there, but all right.
Why do you keep hiring people that you believe are wackos and liars?
Patsy, let's go, please.
No worries.
That was President Donald Trump being asked why the people he hires always turn out to be crazy. Crazy liars with, that are just, they're just terrible. And of course, he's unable to answer. At least before cutting the camera, right? Notice that. Cut the camera. Stop. Cut it. Now, that was in response to Donald Trump's recent rage tweets about his former national security advisor, John Bolton, who was making a lot of waves because he released a book. So now, John Bolton is garbage. He's trash. He should have definitely testified against Donald Trump and not just held on to the information that he had because he wanted to make a buck. Nonetheless, this is what's going on. He released a book. He's releasing a book. And I would urge everyone not to buy it, but to pirate it. Yo ho ho. Avast ye mateys and lift the anchors. Let's go pirate this MFer. All right, anyway. Nonetheless, Donald Trump, very, very big mad, right? Here's what he said. Wacko John Bolton's exceedingly tedious New York Times book is made up of lies and fake stories, said all good about me in print until the day I fired him. A disgruntled, boring fool who only wanted to go to war, never had a clue, was ostracized, and happily dumped. What a dope. What a dope. Let me just say, I love it when terrible people attack other terrible people. I love it. It's tear each other apart. There's nothing like a Republican and Republican crime. Gotta love it. No good people in this story, so I'm happy when they tear each other apart. Now, you know what? There is one good person in this story, I guess. Paula Reed. Paula Reed is a reporter who shouted that question and made the president very uncomfortable, so much so that he had no answer. Because there is no answer, right? So if they're such liars and dopes, why would Donald Trump hire them? I mean, again, it's not just John Bolton. John Bolton's a despicable person. Yes, he's a war hawk. Yes, Donald Trump's absolutely right about that. But you also have former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, also not a good person. Ex-Secretary, Defense Secretary James Mattis, terrible person. Former Chief of Staff John Kelly, also terrible. And of course, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, terrible. And other people. They're all pretty much terrible, which is why Donald Trump hired them in the first place. But apparently they were not loyal, right? And that is the issue. And so, look, everyone either, who works for him either gets fired or resigns in disgust. And not very many of them have anything nice to say about Trump either, except for Jeff Sessions, who is still like, please, Daddy, take me back. I have an election to win. Please don't support my opponent, Tommy Tuberville. Pathetic. Jeff Sessions is pathetic. Spineless bitch. All right. So what's funny is, I remember Donald Trump talking about how he hires the best people, right? He hired the best people, the smartest people, the greatest people. And that's the reason that Donald Trump doesn't have to know anything, right? Didn't have to know anything, didn't have to be, have a background in politics or anything like that, or have any sort of knowledge about how the process works. Well, don't worry. I'm going to hire these great people, these very smart people, and I'm going to surround myself with those people. And then when I have an issue, when I need to know something, I can just go ask them, right? I can ask my advisors and the great people around me, and they'll tell me everything I need to know. Except that that's not what happened. He doesn't even read briefings. He gets super, super bored. He zones out. He's easily distracted. He's got the attention span of a 3-year-old. They have to shorten his briefings to tweet-length segments with his name put throughout them so that he'll pay attention. And yet, he still doesn't pay attention. He still doesn't know anything because he doesn't care. The latest example, again from Bolton's book, he thought Finland was a part of Russia. Not only that, but he also thought that the Finns raked their forests to prevent forest fires. Got to get out those rakes. He's a deeply unintelligent person, but you know this, right? And the thing is, I mentioned loyalty before, that's why he hires people. I mean, he doesn't hire people because they're smart or competent. No, he thinks, I hired you, so you must be loyal to me. And when they decide that they're not loyal to him, they're supposed to be loyal to, the party or what they consider to be the United States. Even if I think that the policies that they use or that they, try to prescribe, like endless war, for example, when Joe Biden, yes, Joe Biden, but also likes war, the Iraq war, but John Bolton, right? John Bolton's a war hawk. But maybe he legitimately thinks, oh, no, I'm doing this for America. Maybe. At least some of the people that work for him were like, no, I actually do want to serve the country. And now, then again, if John Bolton is a bad example because if he really wanted to serve the country, he would have testified against Donald Trump. So I'm just saying. Nonetheless, if you turn against Donald Trump, you're now lazy, boring, a coffee boy. What a dope. I'm so glad I fired them dopes. Why do you keep hiring dopes then? And by the way, in some cases, he doesn't even fire these people, right? They resign in disgust, as I mentioned. And they all have the same story about what a nightmare it is to work for Donald Trump. And so, look, I don't like most of these people, right? And so I understand why you might not want to take them at their word, right? They're all terrible. But at the same time, they're all saying the same thing. They're saying that Donald Trump is deeply unintelligent. He doesn't care about doing the right job. He doesn't care about the country. That his main focus is basically to get reelected. And that's it. And not reelected so that he can do a good job as president, but reelected so that he can keep the power and abuse that power to help himself. This guy is lazy. He doesn't read. He doesn't really actually work at all and is mentally unfit for office. And we have numerous corroborating sources in and out of the White House who are all saying the same thing, that he is deeply, unfit for office and he needs to go. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got more stories here, so don't worry. We're going to switch. No, we're going to do the mask story next. So stay right here for that. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about why Donald Trump doesn't like masks. And then, obviously, we'll get to the Klobuchar story as well. So, fun stuff. And all right, we'll do that right after this break. Thanks some patrons. If there are any super chats, some of that stuff is good as well. Stay right here. We'll be right back. Run the nation.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pounds.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, T-Witty Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right. So, look, I want to thank a couple of, channel members here. Sorry, losing my train of thought. I want to thank Amadou Diallo and Rodney Nelson. That's channel members. You can, of course, become one if you hit the join button below. And then Patreon. We actually passed 400 patrons, so thank you guys. We are 401 in the patron drive, so I want to thank you for that. Let's see. I want to thank. Let me look up their name here. Let's see. Insofar 9999 and Brian Newton. So thank you. Patreon.com/TWTNation. That's support independent progressive media. Sorry, I'm kind of in a rush. And so I want to get back to the stories here as soon as possible. But thank you, Mom Tech. I do appreciate that. All right. In what is another example of making it all about him, President Trump believes that people are wearing masks just to spite him. So now we find this out during an interview with the Wall Street Journal. So basically he says, well, I think people are wearing masks because they don't like me. Really? Okay, look, for one, nobody cares that much about Donald Trump. I mean, no, the reason that people are wearing masks is that it's the most effective way to not spread coronavirus. Again, we have this pandemic and he's pretending that, it doesn't actually exist. They're just wearing the mask because they don't like Donald Trump. No. Here's the thing. Studies point to the effectiveness of wearing masks in public places. This is why, unlike the Memorial Day spike, where people, of course, crowded beaches and the bars and restaurants and all that, in places where they're reopened, without masks and physical distancing, the Black Lives Matter protesters haven't had the spike of their own, right? Now, look, I was concerned, Dr. Fauci was concerned that, some of these protests would lead to a spike. It didn't. However, in places where they reopened bars and restaurants and people were, not wearing masks, social distancing, they did see those spikes. Protesters were wearing masks and there was no spike. They're outdoors as well. And that, of course, is really important, it's an important factor because when you're outside, apparently you don't have to socially distance as much as long as everyone's wearing a mask. So that's good. That's good information. So now people in states that opened up bars and restaurants and didn't enforce mask policies, and of course, when you're eating indoors and you don't have masks, that's going to spread COVID-19 all over the place. And we've seen that in Texas, Arizona, Florida, California. We're all seeing these spikes in COVID infections, right? And so now Trump's been photographed and filmed without a mask. And of course, he's been called out for it. And so listen to this defense. Quote, he says his issue with masks is that people sometimes touch them, exposing the risk of infection. They put their finger on the mask and then they take them off. And then they start touching their eyes or touching their nose and their mouth. And then they don't know how they caught it. Okay, hold on here. Wait a minute. So according to that, if you listen to that, according to the president, it's better off that you don't wear a mask because, there's some people that decide they're going to take the mask off and touch their face. Well, you shouldn't take your mask off and shouldn't touch your face. But here's the thing, right? He's missing the point. Because the point of the mask is for people to not spread COVID-19 to others. You wear the mask because we should all assume that we are asymptomatic spreaders, right? And the reason you wear masks is to protect others. If everyone wears a mask, then we're all protecting each other, and we're also in so doing, we're also protecting ourselves. So he doesn't get it, though. He doesn't get it, and he doesn't care about people. And by the way, again, he believes that the people are only wearing masks because they're showing a disapproval of Donald Trump because he doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't make any sense, right? And so I'm sorry, but not everybody is as petty as you and your fans are, and it is petty. I mean, sometimes I cannot believe that we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? That in the middle of a pandemic, the president of the United States, somebody who's supposed to be a leader and a role model to the entire country as well as the world, right, is unwilling to do the bare minimum to help stop the spread of coronavirus. And not only is wearing a mask the bare minimum, it's actually the most effective bare minimum that you can do. It's not like doing something super hard. It's just putting a mask on your face when you go out to the grocery store or you go outside in groups of people. That's it. That's really it. But again, he's unwilling to do the bare minimum. And if you would just wear the mask and tell people, turns out the masks are very, very good. They're effective. Everybody's saying it. Everybody knows. I know that masks are good, so just wear the mask. Look, all you could do is if you wanted to, you could make money on this, right? Donald Trump, you could make money off this. Why don't you print like Keep America Great and Trump 2020 face masks? Your fans would love it. They might actually wear them if Daddy tells them to wear them too. But of course, it's not going to happen because he's too stupid and he's too self-absorbed to care about his own voters, especially the elderly and the immunocompromised. And so, look, evidence of that is he's holding a rally in Tulsa. It's going to be filled with lots and lots of people. And there's no plan to deal with COVID-19. There's no plan for spacing in between seats. There's no plan to force, attendees to wear masks. No, his plan for it is I'm going to make you sign a waiver saying that if you get sick at my COVID rally, well, then I'm not liable for it. You want to guess what's going to happen? I think we already know. All right. Anyway. Switching gears here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Amy Klobuchar. Down goes Amy Klobuchar. She is no longer in the running for Biden's VP pick. So this is according to a recent report by the New York Times. Ms. Klobuchar said during an MSNBC interview on Thursday that she had let Mr. Biden know, gave him a call on Wednesday night to say that she is no longer considering herself in the running for the VP slot, and says that instead of choosing her, that he should choose a woman of color to be his running mate. So now, look, for a long time, I've been like, he's going to pick Klobuchar or Gretchen Whitmer. It's going to be in a boring, uninspired, terrible white ticket. It's going to be bad. And now, apparently, look, and a lot of this is because of, the George Floyd protests, the Black Lives Matter protests, and Amy Klobuchar's record. She's no longer being considered. Now, of course, the reasons that I said that she was going to be picked originally is that she's bland, she's boring, she's a moderate, right? She's not going to overshadow Joe Biden. She's going to agree with him on most of his policy positions. And that's exactly what he's looking for. And they have a great relationship with each other, by the way. And not only that, but the donors and a lot of his supporters love Klobuchar. Absolutely love. Klobumentum. Right? But again, since you had her record on display because of the death of George Floyd that happened in Minneapolis, where she happened to be the district attorney in Hennepin County where this happened. So now, here's what the Times said. As the district attorney in Hennepin County, which encompasses Minneapolis, Ms. Klobuchar developed a tough-on-crime reputation 20 years ago that is a difficult fit with the modern Democratic Party politics. Though she has rebutted criticism that she failed to prosecute police misconduct, her record was scrutinized during the presidential campaign and would likely have become a major headache for Mr. Biden's campaign had he selected her as the running mate. Now, I love how it mentions like, oh, her tough on crime reputation be a headache for Joe Biden. Well, so is Joe Biden's reputation for and his record of being tough on crime, the 94 crime bill and all that stuff. So, I mean, I guess that would be an additional headache for Joe Biden, one that he is already facing for his own record. So there's that. But nonetheless, her record is exposed. She's done. She's done. So now she's out. Who's in? It's a good question. I think that, look, Whitmer was another one of my choices that I thought that he was going, and not my choice, like not that I want to see her become, become the VP, even though at least in handling coronavirus, she's actually done a pretty decent job. And so we got to be fair about that, right? So now Whitmer, though, not a woman of color, so she's likely out, right? And so right now the speculation is on a couple of people. Here you have Kamala Harris. Uh-oh. Now, Kamala Harris has problems as well. Kamala Harris has, she was former prosecutor, right? And she actually failed to prosecute Steve Mnuchin for doing fraud. And so she's got a problematic approach. In fact, Kamala Harris, like one of the famous things about her is Kamala Harris is a cop. And so she's got that record as well of going after parents for truancy, putting people in jail. So she also has some of those issues, right? So now another person is a relative unknown, and that's Representative Val Demings of Florida. And Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms of Atlanta, and another person that's on the short list, Susan Rice, former national security advisor under President Obama. So those are some of the picks, but it looks like Kamala and Demings are really, really high up there. And so, I don't know enough about Demings, but I can be assured that because that's the pick, or could be the pick, and since she's so high up, that she's probably not progressive. Another person not going to make it, Elizabeth Warren. But we kind of already knew that. Stacey Abrams also not going to make it. Didn't win the Veep stakes. And so who do I want to see? That's the interesting question. Barbara Lee. I'd love to see Barbara Lee, right? She's incredibly progressive. She proposed. She just made a proposal to cut the Pentagon budget in half. Yes. Oh, I love it. Please do more of that. And look, even if Biden is just going for, token points, right? Well, she still checks off both boxes for him. And look, since she is progressive, she might actually get a little enthusiasm from Bernie Sanders supporters for his campaign. Because right now there's not a lot of, enthusiasm behind the Biden campaign at this point. Right now, Biden, people are basically planning to vote for Biden because he's not Donald Trump. This entire election right now is looking like a referendum, but that could change. And you might want to have someone on your side who not only can actually talk, because Biden seems to have a problem with that, but also has good positions, who's progressive, and who's bold. And so that would be a good choice. It would be an excellent choice. That said, I don't think that he's going to go in that direction because Joe Biden, look, I don't know if it's the hubris in this entire thing. Oh, don't worry, we got this, right? There's no way that we could lose to Donald Trump. Well, we've heard that before. certainly the field is very, very favorable to Joe Biden right now, but that's not saying that things couldn't change. And maybe you might want to have a little bit of insurance by having somebody who's kind of more progressive and, has really good, solid policy positions behind her that are populist. I don't know. I hope. But knowing Biden the way that I know Biden, well, she's probably out of the running, and it's going to be someone like Harris or Demings specifically. It seems like he's going down the road of picking a black female VP, and so we'll see what happens. Maybe this speculation is wrong, and he might pick someone else, but we don't know. We'll see. One more here. And try and squeeze in this last story. Yes, punk bitch racist Trump. It's not like I don't agree with that. I do. He is. Totally. All right. President Trump's EPA on Thursday just finalized a rule to roll back regulations on a chemical found in rocket fuel. So now this chemical, of course, would now be allowed to be in drinking water. So now EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler, according to Common Dreams, made the announcement on Thursday saying that the move fulfills President Trump's promise to pare back burdensome one-size-fits-all over-regulation for the American people. Because that's one thing the American people really want, is to be able to have rocket fuel additives in our water, in our drinking water. Our dreams are finally coming true. So glad you're getting rid of this burden regulation that makes sure that my drinking water can't be full of rocket fuel. Now, the chemical in question is perchlorate, right? And so it's pretty nasty stuff. It does some pretty nasty things. And so let me explain that. This is according to the AP. Perchlorate can damage the development of fetuses and children and cause measurable drops in IQ in newborns. The American Academy of Pediatrics said in late August in urging the strongest possible federal limits. Studies cited by the doctors group included one showing that 9 out of 13 breastfeeding infants were ingesting significant levels of that chemical. And this, of course, because the mothers are ingesting water that is laced with perchlorates. So now this decision now puts 16 million people at risk of regularly ingesting this chemical, which is a complete and utter disaster. Why would you do that? Why would you allow the wide poisoning of millions of American citizens? That's what this is. I mean, you're poisoning your people. But of course, they didn't have a problem when it came to poisoning people in Flint. So why would they have a problem with rocket fuel additives? Isn't it amazing? We've invaded other countries for less, and yet we have an administration that's getting away with this. Now, according to the NRDC, it's the National Resources Defense Council, and a senior strategic director, Eric D. Olson, put out a statement. It's a pretty strong one. He said, today's decision is illegal, unscientific, and unconscionable. The EPA is threatening the health of pregnant moms and young children with toxic chemicals in their drinking water at levels that can literally cause the loss of IQ points. Is this what the EPA has come to? Well, under Republicans, yes. So of course, there's a lot of hypocrisy in this decision. I thought Republicans, you guys are supposed to be pro-life. I thought you're supposed to care about the fetuses. Oh, apparently not. No, what they care about is profit over everything else. What about all lives? Don't all lives matter? I keep hearing from Republicans and conservatives, all lives matter, all lives matter. Well, you're okay, but you're going to let people drink rocket fuel additives in their water? That's fine. In the name of eliminating burdensome regulations. No, look, you're needlessly giving these families lifetime of learning disabilities and other struggles so that corporations can make an extra buck. It's ridiculous. So now the NRDC plans to challenge this in court, saying that the consent decree does not allow for deregulating this chemical, which the Obama administration had originally tried to do, to regulate this to make sure that we don't have this in drinking water. That's one way that, of course, Democrats seem to be better than Republicans, is that they won't allow us to drink rocket fuel in our water. So that's good. I guess that's one thing. In a statement on Thursday, Senator Tom Carper, ranking member in the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, said he agrees with the NRDC. Quote, EPA has advocated its responsibility to set federal drinking water standards for a chemical known to be unsafe, instead of leaving it up to states to decide whether or not to protect people from it. Even though EPA previously determined this dangerous chemical needed to be regulated, the agency has now decided to ignore science that it defines inconvenient and reverse its earlier finding. This is an all too common and disturbing pattern of action for this EPA. Well, that's what it is. I mean, the EPA now stands for, the I don't know, I can't come up with an acronym. Not on the spot today. But it basically is now protecting the corporations. That's what they stand for. They're protecting corporate America. They're protecting wealthy CEOs and shareholders. And they're making sure that they don't pay the price when people get sick. That they don't have to do anything when people get sick. That they're allowed to poison the American people in order to save extra money. I mean, it's incredibly gross. It's absolutely gross. And this is what we're seeing under Republicans. This is what we're seeing under the Trump administration. And Andrew Wheeler, who I believe was co-lobbyist, they're in favor of deregulating all of these industries and subjecting the American people to terrible, terrible things. It's sickening. All right. That's all. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Thank you, Barry Muhammad, for becoming a member. You can become a member too by hitting the join button below, or become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. Please check out the clips if you haven't already. A lot of our stuff actually doesn't get out to subscribers. So click the bell, check back in the channel page for new videos. We put up 5 a day. So check them out, like them, share them, and thank you very much. All right, guys. Have a great, great weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you back here on Monday. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.
Please clap.
Tolerate. Mike Pounds.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.